Today's guest is president of Kruise Fest, #1 Kiss fan, and my good friend from high school. Please welcome Joe D'Angelo. Hey, Joe, what's going on?
Thanks for having me.
I think I'm very excited. I want to say Rob is obviously on the screen, and the lovely Lisa, just after having a bong rip, she's available now.
Always.
And good to go. Joe, welcome to the program, and thanks for getting up early. You said you're in your trailer. What are you doing? Tell me what's happening behind you.
I got a camper down by the Jersey Shore. My wife and I will disappear a couple weekends a month if we can, and that's where I'm at. So I actually, I have to be honest with you, I slept a little bit. But I got up, made my coffee, and good to go.
We said there's one of two things happening here. Joe's wiping the sleep out of his eyes, or he's trying to get rid of the sleep apnea mask thing going on. So I don't even know if he has sleep apnea, but when Rob said that, it was funny as shit.
Which one was it? Oversleeping or just legit trying to get the last minute, like little depressions of overnight sleep apnea mask?
Well, the good thing is I don't have sleep apnea. So, and even if I did, the mask would sit on my beard and probably wouldn't leave a mark.
There you go.
This is how ridiculous this podcast is going to be. All right, let's talk about important shit right now. This is very important. So I was remodeling a bathroom, and I'm working in this bathroom, and I go outside and I look outside and I see there's a hearse, and on the side of the hearse are all the members of KISS on the side of the hearse. And I was like, man, I wonder who the hell that is. So I said to the lady I was working for, Kim, I said, Kim, who's your next door neighbor? She said, oh, it's Joe D'Angelo. And here we are again. Now we found each other once again due to a bathroom remodel. So how did you get into I knew you were a big rock fan back in high school and all that kind of stuff, but how'd you get into the Kiss Cruise and the Kruise Fest and how did this all start for you?
The whole KISS thing started when I met my wife. I was 18, she was 18. She was dating my band for like a week, but I hadn't met her yet. The singer asked me, he's like, will you take me to my girlfriend's house? His car had broken down. He drove an old 54 Buick. That thing was always in the shop.
Cool.
Take me to my girlfriend's house. I'm like, be a third wheel. He says, I'll fill your tank. Well, at 18 years old, that's like a brick of gold. So I was like, all right, I'm in. So I took her. I took him over to meet her. Her and I looked at each other, and 33 years later, we're still together. And wow. She was at the time the biggest KISS fan I'd ever seen. She had at that point, I've come to find over the years that KISS fans have a KISS room, and they'll have all their KISS stuff out in the room. But when I met her at 18 years old, her bedroom was already a KISS room. Floor, ceiling, walls, doors, windows, everything was covered in KISS. And I was like, okay, this girl's crazy, but she's cute. So we got together, and the crazy became cuter, and the cuter became crazier. And the two of us just got in. I mean, we went full bore. Once they put the makeup back on in '96, we had just gotten married. The two of us just more in Connecticut, and just New York and Philly and everywhere. One thing led to another, and how it evolved into Kruise Fest. We went on the KISS cruise 11 or 12 years ago. The first one, I think it was 2011. So, and we thought it was a one-time thing, and it was such an incredible gathering, like-minded KISS nuts, that we loved it. And we met some crazy people and had a good time. And I started working on the pre-parties little by little. And the pre-parties for the KISS cruise were always fan-run, and they were small. You get together in a hotel ballroom or a hotel lobby, really, and at the bar, and you have a couple drinks, and you see the guys you haven't seen since last year, and you hug, and oh my God, I love you, I miss you. And then, Ray, this, I was always in bands and always playing and always booking bands, and that was always my forte, was the music angle. So it just kind of evolved, and I started booking bands, and the pre-parties for the KISS cruise just blew up. And we did a Kruise Fest in 2019, and we had like 1,000 people there. It was nuts. So unfortunately, due to COVID, we haven't done it since 2019. So this one that we're doing in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks is probably the last one that we'll do. So it's our last hurrah, so to speak, but it's really coming together, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
So why is it your last hurrah? Because it sounds like this is freaking awesome. So just to give everybody who's listening an idea of what's happening, there's a Kiss cruise where you go on a cruise with other Kiss fans, and you watch some really cool bands. And Rob, Lisa, and I were looking at the website, and it's super, super cool. And you do the pre-party to get everybody pre-partied up before the actual cruise itself, which sounds freaking awesome. So why on earth you would not want to do this anymore is beyond me, but I want to hear the reasoning why you want one. So this is the Kiss Cruise website, and you can look. Week 1, you got Dockin', which I want to talk about with George Lynch. And you got that all going on. There's some George Lynch's band here. There's some other people here that I thought are really cool. And week 2, you have, Black Label Society, Buck Cherry. You have some other Sebastian Bach. You have some really cool bands. So, Stryper, of course. Yeah, I'm a huge Stryper. We could talk about that. I'm a huge Stryper fan. And I brought my dad, and when Stryper was in its heyday, I brought my dad with me to the Tower Theater in Philadelphia to see Stryper. And I sold it as, these guys are a Christian rock band, and my dad's like a big time Catholic, and he's like, I want to go, I want to see these guys, whatever. So we get there, and Hurricane was the opening band. Everybody was smoking weed. And my dad's like, what the hell kind of Christians are these? Right? Everybody's smoking. I think my dad was lit, and I had to drive home. I think he had like secondhand, old Italian guy, secondhand smoke high, I think. But then Stryper came out, and listen, Michael Sweet killed it. Those guys are top-notch musicians. But why stop doing I'm gonna get back and not go on a tangent for a minute. Why stop doing this pre-cruise?
Before I answer that question, we do have to talk about Stryper at one point, because I was at that show too, and there's a story for the show. But
I want to hear it. Tell me the story now. Now I'm intrigued.
All right, I'll be quick about it. At show, they recorded the video for free. The song Free. I was at that show, and I was with the guy who would be eventually dating my soon-to-be girlfriend, evolved into wife.
Right.
And we were actually when they shot the video for free, we were sitting in the second row center, and we're in the video. I'm in my leather fringe jacket, long hair,
Oh my God.
Back in the day. And I had no idea at that point. I was a big fan then, but I had no idea at that point that I would be not only still a fan, but now, like, Lisa Sweet, Michael's wife, emails me. Right. And we talk about things, and they're going to be in Los Angeles. They might come to Kruise Fest. I'm trying to work that out. So if you'd have told me back then that I'd be working with these guys, I would have called you a liar. But the cool thing is, staying on the Stryper topic, I went to see them at the Stone Pony. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
I did too. Same show.
You were at that show?
I was at. Did you do the meet and greet?
I did, and here's the story. When you meet and greet, they give you the little tickets, and then they pull 2 tickets, and those 2 people get to go up on stage. At the end of the show, you get your picture with the band and everybody. It's cool. So long story short, my wife and I get our tickets. They pull them out. They pull her. And she's like, oh, you go. You're the bigger fan. I totally understand. You take my ticket. I'm like, okay. So then they pull the ticket number, and it's my ticket.
Oh,
and I'm standing right next to the street to Robert Sweet. And I love Robert, and I'm like, Robert, I don't know. Maybe we should pick another one. I feel bad that that my wife and I got picked.
Yeah.
It's husband and wife. And there should be somebody else maybe. And Robert Sweet looks me dead in the eye, and he says, your numbers were picked. You guys are going on stage. And I was like, okay, Robert has spoken. So the picture of my cover page on Facebook is that photo of all of us on the stage at the Stone Pony with everybody in the audience behind us. It's an amazing experience. It was one of the most surreal moments of my career, so to speak.
I had to drag my wife to that show, and she thought his name was Stripper. So the whole night long she was Stripper. So here's a funny story. So my son Dylan plays baseball. And there's this great couple that we know. We're friends with them. They live right around the corner from us. Mm-hmm. So we are at the club. We're at the VIP, and where the Stone Pony is. I don't know if it was where you were, but we were all the way in the top right corner by the merch table. But there's a little VIP area, so we're sitting right outside the VIP area, and we see our friends, and we're like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we're best friends with the keyboard player." Because in the day they used to have a keyboard guy who played a lot of the keyboards. So he would be offside doing the keyboard stuff, but he still knew the band. So whenever they were in town, they would, go do the thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was, so we're sitting up there, and then Chris Jericho walks up, the wrestler who's in Fozzy, and he has got
Fozzy, yeah.
So we're hanging out with all these people. It was really very cool. It was a really weird show because you remember how bad the weather was that night. We were all waiting outside for like an hour and a half before it came in. It was, and this show, it was so tiny. It's like there was like 1,000 people in a tiny room.
That's the beauty of the Stone Pony, though. The Stone Pony is like legendary, and even like that summer stage or summer concert series that they have, it's like legendary to go see bands there. I only saw Striper that one time, but that was like a groundbreaking band because they had like this wholesomeness to them, but they also like Oz Fox is a ripping guitar player, so they had like all of these, they had like all of these really, really cool. They had the theme. I didn't like it when they got away. Like at one point they kind of like got away from it. And then I think they brought it back.
Above the law. When they did Above the Law.
Above the Law,
They were like leather jackets and stuff. They weren't like stripes, and it wasn't Jesus. It was, but it was a little tougher. They were trying to go for a different angle, and like, no, keep the yellow stripes. It works for you guys. No one else, but it works for you guys.
For them, it worked. And I think it's because they created it. And I think they created like this genre of music that has led to like, there's other really good Christian rock bands out there that, that build off of, bands like Striper, who are these groundbreaking bands. The Striper still tours, and they're still out there going strong. They're probably in their, I would guess they got to be older than us, Joe, right? They got to be in their early 50s, right? I would think.
I would say if I just turned 51 in June, they're probably, I'd say 58.
Yeah, I would say they're probably 50.
Got about 7 years on us.
Yeah.
Because I knew them in junior high school, so it makes me 13.
Yeah.
13. So that's 1983. They're already in a band. You got to figure they were born in the 60s. So yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was finding that like that niche that they found. It's like metal music right now. Like every metal concert. My son is a guitar player, and he's really into all different types of metal. I went to go see Slipknot with him. And at PNC and in Jersey and PNC, and that was probably one of the top 10 concerts I've ever seen. But the first 3 songs were like physically painful because it was so powerful, and it makes you like lose your breath. And there was so many people there. Like a couple of weeks before that, we went to go see Bush, The Cult, and Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, that's a good show.
The place was sold. It was Bush stole the show. I'm huge man crush on Gavin Rossdale. I'm going to admit it. Nothing wrong with that. But at any rate, that show was sold out. I don't know what they thought, who they thought they were putting in the show with Slipknot. And there were some other bands there too. We sat in somebody's seats. We didn't know where we were. We were like maybe 20 rows from the front. We don't know how we got there. Our tickets were like for all the way in the back. It's an outside venue, but we were underneath the canopy all the way in the back. We ended up being in like the 20th row. We had a great time, but it was like a spectacle like no other spectacle. Like that kind of music, whether it's Slipknot or Striper or whatever, that'll just keep on living on because they've created that. They're the godfathers of that genre of music.
Yeah, I've seen Slipknot several times. I'll never forget the first time I saw them. There's one song I'm drawing a memory blank on with the name of it, but at one point they get the band gets like quieter in their song, and everybody crouches down. Yep. And then all of a sudden he just busts into it, and the whole place goes berserk. Well, I didn't crouch down because I didn't know I was supposed to. I'm just watching everybody else. And you can tell I'm one of the guys who don't know because there's like me and like 1,000 other people throughout the whole venue that are just standing looking like, what's everybody doing? And then the place just went berserk, and it was so cool and energized, and just, it was great. It was really impressive. I had a whole newfound respect for them after that.
That's an incredible band, and Jim Root's incredible. And the video that Rob just had up, listen, Michael Sweet still looks unaged. I mean, he looks great. And I hope
a new video, and his voice is amazing. It's really good. I mean,
these guys lose it.
Tell he's a healthy guy and he puts the work in because his voice is like Sammy Hagar. It just gets better over time.
So some of these guys.
It's funny. We actually booked him. Yeah, we booked him for. I do another event called the Rock and Pod in Nashville every year. Rock Podcast Expo. We just signed Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys is going to be one of the headliners this year. But we had Michael Sweet. God, it was probably 4 years ago already. And him and Dave came, and Dave Ellefson was there from Megadeth. And they just were like two of the nicest, easygoing guys. We had like an all-star jam, and Michael's like, "Sure, I'll play. Give me a guitar." He just took a guitar, tuned it up, and said, "Okay." And his voice was, wow, it was amazing. Him and a guy named Tony Harnell. If you don't know who Tony Harnell is, you got to check him out. The two of them were on stage together. They did Michael Sweet played, and Tony Harnell sang the Green Menelishi from Judas Priest.
Mm-hmm.
Blew the hair on my arms is standing up right now. You should see it. It was that memorable.
They do some amazing covers. I don't know if you have the album, but they do "On Fire" by Van Halen on the Striper cover album. It's really, and they even do "Over the Mountain" by Ozzy, which equally rocks. It's a great cover album.
I bet
They can.
Great band.
You gotta remember that guy plays lead guitar sometimes. He plays lead guitar the entire show. So you don't even understand how hard it is to sing that well and to play that well to the point where you're the lead on most of the songs. A lot of the songs anyway. I mean, some of the songs, most of the album is, I would say, of every guitar solo, they're probably both playing half the time. Maybe one guy plays the beginning, but even like songs Under Command, they're all playing in harmony at the end. So they definitely rock. Definitely an amazing band for sure.
I always find, what I find interesting in the whole thing is that three of us are musicians. I played in a band deluxe, bar band, wedding band. We played casinos. We played all that kind of stuff. We played like, I would say 50 shows a year for about 7 years. It was a lot of fun. I'm a hack guitar player. I'm by no means a good guitar player. So then you look at like, I have a video of Rob playing, which I'm not going to bust out right now, but I caught him on video jamming in his basement. Rob's a really, really good guitar player. So my son, my younger son, Chase, is an exceptional guitar player. So he was going to some local guys here for lessons, and he was doing really well. And we went to go see some band, and I can't remember who the heck it was. I'm going to look it up on it when we were done. But we went to go see the Struts, and the band that opened up for the Struts was a local Philly band, and I don't recall their name right now. But my son knew the guitar player's name, so he ends up emailing this guy and saying, "Hey, do you offer guitar lessons?" And the guy says, "Unfortunately, I don't, but find out who's a guy that you really like who's like a guitar player that you really like. Email them and ask them if they offer lessons." So he said, okay. So he ends up emailing a guy named Jackie Vincent, who's a guitar player in his band Falling in Reverse. Jackie said, "I'd love to give you lessons. I think it would be great." So I talked to Jackie on the phone because my son's 17 now, but this is when he was 15. And for about a year, the difference between listening to a guy like Jackie Vincent play the guitar and listening to the best local guitar player that is mind-bogglingly different. Jackie's like a legend. Like, he's incredible, and you could hear it, and it's just him playing the guitar versus like, oh, I know so-and-so. He's a ripping local guitar player. This guy's great. Then you listen to somebody who's at the level of like a Michael Sweet or like Jim Root from Slipknot or like Jackie Vincent or some of these guys. You're like, these guys are exceptional. They're like next level. And then if you could only imagine if you were able to just sit on a couch with Eddie Van Halen and listen to a guy like that play, that's the next. That's the pinnacle of guitar playing. So I don't know, that's the difference that I heard when I say, oh man, and I hear my son play. My son blows anyone I know, he blows him out of the water. Anyone I know, and he's 17 years old. And that's just because he's been tutored by the most exceptional guy that we could find to tutor him to play. Now, maybe he gets to the next level and maybe he does something like that.
Well, invite him over here. I got a lot of toys
maybe not.
to play with. I got a lot of toys going on over here. So
I was telling him that. But that's but you can hear the difference when you hear the difference between a guy. So you sat with like Michael Sweet, you sat with guys like that. So you know the difference between just the exceptionalism. It's something special when you get to that level of being a musician.
I've been really fortunate. This was never meant to be. Well, I take that back. I always wanted this to be my career, to to book bands, to do tours. Back in the early 90s, we were doing East Coast tours with bands. I had my headliner was from Warner Brothers, and I put my band that I was managing as the opener. And it was a whole different ball game then. It was before the internet. It was before a lot of things that now are industry standard. But I always thought that was going to be my career. And then, of course, it didn't pay off because monetarily it was never enough. I always had to go work a day job, which is, now I'm a project manager for a construction company, and I've been doing that for years, and that's my gig. But the passion, and I think when you're into music, whether you are a musician or just a diehard fan, it's hard to let it go. It's amazing how much music can grab a hold of you, and you can't let it go. I mean, Patrice, my wife, and we've probably do about 50 shows a year. We used to, you know what, it's probably more like 30 now. It used to be 40 or 50. We've slowed down as we've gotten a little older. It's hard to stand for that long anymore, but I can't let it go. I mean, it's just something that and that's why I do the Kruise Fest. It was always a passion of mine. And I always said to Patrice years and years and years ago, even to other people, you play LA, you made it. Because when we were kids playing the Rainbow, the Whiskey, the Troubadour, those were, they were all, excuse me, iconic LA places that you, as a band or manager of a band, wanted to see them play. And I never got to play it, never got to book it. And now I'm doing a show in Los Angeles, and it's kind of like come full circle. So, as I said, this is probably going to be my last one. So I'm 99.9% sure that's where it's heading, just because I don't see me doing this again. Booking a show in Los Angeles and all the operations of the day-to-day operations, it's difficult when I'm in New Jersey. It's really, really. Plus, I have a day job. Yeah. It's a lot. It's become a hobby that's taken up too much of my time and not generating enough money to make it worthwhile to do.
Sure. Have you looked at?
And this is the last cruise.
Oh, this is the last Kiss cruise ever?
It's the last one where they said it's the last one that they will play on. Basically means they will probably still sell autographed guitars and do their meet and greets and all that, but they're not performing. I've been on all 11 at this point. There's been 11 of them, and this is 11. So I think my wife and I are just done. It's run its course for us.
And I think personally, as you start to do some of these things, and you start to see, the growth in it, and you start to see whatever. The hardest thing, we had a guest on last week whose podcast is getting ready to drop, Tony Faz, and he's a friend of mine, and he's a newly found career as an actor. And he said what he found to be the hardest thing about it is when you're 50, he's our age, he's 50 years old. So when the hardest thing that he found about it, where a lot of people struggle, is the financial end of it. You have to be able to not make money. And if you can go for extended periods of time, like he's in a position where he can go for a week without making a paycheck, right? Not everybody can do that. You have to go. If you can do that, you could probably book shows everywhere and eventually build a booking agency and eventually and it takes something. It's like being an entrepreneur in any kind of career. There's never no one ever says to you, oh, here, Ray, here, Joe, here, Lisa, here's $1 million. Thank you. No one ever says that when you're building your business. They're like, you try to do something, you're like, oh man, I just made my first, $300 or whatever the heck it is. And you feel great. Listen, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to create a paycheck. You're not earning a paycheck. You have to create your daily routine. You have to do these things, and it's hard. And then as you get older, it gets harder that you want to do that too. Would you do any bookings on the East Coast? Have you ever thought about hey, there's a couple cool venues in New Jersey. Let me try to book some bands have you ever thought about doing anything like that?
Yeah, I have. Then I did it for years too.
Right.
But there was a band, Jaded Past, who is a local band, and their guitar player, Pete Fry, who's a phenomenal guitar player in his own right. Pete has been in a lot of local bands. He's in a band called Far Cry too, which you may heard of. They actually get some international attention. They wanted me to book them, Jaded Past. And I found that when you're a little out of practice, which I am at this point,
Sure.
At least as far as booking a band specifically and managing them. You know, it's hard to get in some of those venues you want to play. You just want to play a bar. You want to you go and play opening for Kicks or, you know, some other level band. Alter Bridge plays the Starland Ballroom. How do we get the opening slot for that? And you got to have the connections. I really, you know, and I don't anymore. They've died up on me over the years because I haven't cultivated them.
Sure.
So I thought about it, but I think at this point I'm really ready to just keep enjoying the music and going to see shows and booking a little less. I may still do something on the East Coast. My wife and I talked about doing a Kiss Cruise reunion party in a year or so because a lot of people are going to start peeling off. We'll do something.
And you can do that too.
I
mean, that would be a great idea to do after the cruise is over as well, because it could be like kind of like that group of people can now have their own little thing that they go and do photos or, you know, whatever. I mean, actually, and then you don't have to do it on that day. You can do it on the summer. It could be, it doesn't have to be correlated to the cruise if you don't need to.
You can do it whenever you want.
Yeah. That's what we were thinking too. I have to say that both of our creative juices are still flowing. We're going to put them in a different direction.
The podcasting that you were talking about, I know you've invited me there, and one year, I think maybe this year, maybe me and Rob will take the trip to Nashville. I think is a future of what a lot of these guys have to do. You know what I mean? So I don't know if your body hangs on to, you know, playing a 40 show tour or doing whatever, but it's real easy to do a podcast when you do a little bit of prep. And next thing you know, you're interviewing whoever you want to interview. So I think that there's who are you getting out with the podcast, the rock podcast that you're doing. Who are the guests this year, and how does that work?
The Rockin' Pod was created by a guy named Chris Sinzak, and Chris is a really good friend. He's helping me with Kruise Fest. I help him with Rockin' Pod, and we have a really good kind of symbiotic relationship. We kind of reciprocate, you know, help for each other. But like last year, for example, we had Carmine and Vinny Appice, Billy Sheehan and Greg Bissonette. We had Mark Goodman, Matt Pinfield, and there was another, and Ricky Rackman were at, because we had a little MTV panel. So this year's guests are still being fleshed out. We're talking to a few people. One is really, really huge. We're reaching out to Dave Mustaine and his crew to see if we can get Mustaine there.
Wow.
I have a friend who knows Peter Frampton. We're trying to see if I can connect to Peter and see if he make an appearance. We did just book Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys. Now, Dangerous Toys was one of those bands that had a couple of good albums, but, you know, it's been 30 years, but he made his money in the podcast industry. That's really where he's made a ton of his, you know, and Ricky Rocket, the guy, is it Ricky Rocket? The guy from the drummer from Poison.
Yeah, his name. I love Ricky Rocket. Yeah,
he's the same way. He's made a good killing off of that, and it's an avenue for people. And I'll tell you, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we're all doing it. You know, everybody here does a podcast. I've been on a ton of them from buddies that do the podcast, and it's really doing really well. Plus, you know, in Nashville's the new Los Angeles.
For sure.
As far as music is concerned, everybody that we want to reach, a lot of them live there or keep residence there. So it's definitely blowing up. It's Rock and Pod, ROCK, the letter N Pod, POD.com. So check it out. There's a lot going on. It's going to be a lot of fun. This year we're moving it to a 30,000 square foot facility, a massive ballroom. I have live music. We've got some really cool stuff lined up. So tons of vendors. And then the very next day we're a comic book horror expo, which also fits because a lot of our guests can kind of parlay into as well.
So that's so goals as a podcaster. So anything involving rock music. So here's a Rockin' Pod weekend, Nashville, March 17th to the 19th. So Rob and Lisa, maybe we keep that open and
I'm there.
And try to. Rob's already booked it. He's like, "Fuck it, we're going. Just send your personals." And well, listen, man, I don't even need clothes. I went to Vegas one year without an overnight. But that's a whole nother fucking story. Bro, I got there and I was there the next day. I woke up and I was like, "Fuck, I don't even have underwear." I had to go to like the gift shop and get like a pair of boxer shorts that were for sale wherever I was at the Wynn. They had like Wynn boxer shorts and stuff. I was like, oh my God. So I had to get like some clothes. It was great. That's one of those weekends where you're like, oh my God, I have to tell you what happened. Nashville could be that. But I think that it would be, Rob, definitely look into this, because I think that would be a lot of fun for the three of us to go to and get involved in, because this independent what we're doing. Rob's already registering as we're doing the podcast.
He's like, I'm not even bullshitting.
He's like, who has a credit card today? This independent form of media, we could talk about what we want. We could do what we want to do. We can have a conversation about music. We can have a conversation about anything we want. And for me, like these 80s, 90s rock stars, like these are like my heroes. These are the guys that when I was at, Steinert High School, smoking cigarettes in between classes and doing whatever, like these were like my guys, you know what I mean? And like to have the opportunity to like see them. And this is what's scary. We've talked, the three of us have talked about this before. I like your opinion, Joe, on this too. Sometimes you meet a guy or a person that's famous and they're not the person that you thought that they were going to be, but you listen to their music. And I'm always afraid of like ruining that. I'm always afraid of ruining that relationship. Like I had bought the Geddy Lee Big Book of Bass, and I wanted to go have Geddy Lee sign it. Right. And I didn't do it. I shit it out at the last minute because I don't know, like the whole autograph thing is an interesting thing. But I said, what if Geddy Lee is like, fuck you, I don't want, like he didn't want to like respond the way that I thought that he would respond. So that's always my fear with some of these things. But at the end of the day, these are like my heroes. You know what I mean? So these are like that's what that's how I look at it.
There's a certain amount of hero worship I think we all have towards our musicians that we follow, the bands that we like. I know for me that's definitely par for the course. I guess that's a Geddy Lee signature right there.
Sure is.
Oh my God! Did you meet Geddy Lee?
No, but this is his bass. That's
the Geddy Lee? Oh, that's his signature bass. All right, do you know the story? Do you know the story about that bass? Not the one you have in your hand, but the actual Geddy Lee. The actual bass guitar. One. Yeah. So he was going to play the Rickenbacker on the Moving Pictures album, and decided that he's looking for a different sound. He bought that bass guitar for $1,000 at a pawn shop and played it, and changed the entire sound of the album. Was exactly what he was looking for, and they ended up creating Moving Pictures. So sometimes you get a story like that. And I did get, I had a friend of mine meet Geddy Lee at an autograph signing and said he was a real gentleman. And it was pretty neat because we had snuck it. Remember back in the day, you couldn't bring cameras into concerts. They would like search you and they would do that. We had all went to go see Rush at the Meadowlands, and we all had a piece of a camera in our underwear. So one guy had the lens, one guy had the camera body, one guy had whatever. Right?
I can't. Right? I can't. Really?
For real. We put together this camera and we take sensational fucking pictures of Rush. And the opening band was the Tommy Shaw band when Tommy Shaw had Left Sticks. By the way, Tommy Shaw's a ripping musician, but that's another story. Yep. So my buddy Rob, he saves these pictures over the years. He saves them. And he goes to meet Geddy Lee. And he says, Geddy Lee, I'd like you to sign these pictures. And he goes, I'll sign them all for you if you send me copies of these pictures. We'll give you like some information that you can send us, copies of the pictures. They were fantastic pictures with a telescopic lens taken hiding from security guards at the Meadowlands. It was spectacular. And he did it. He sent these pictures in, and I think Geddy Lee sent them a thank you note.
It's amazing. No one knows about Meadowlands anyway.
What's it called now, the Meadowlands? The Izon Center? What's it called now?
It's the Izon Center. Yeah.
I think it's called Xanadu now, isn't it? Xanadu up there now? Isn't that the place that it is where it is?
Did they name it after the Russian?
I think Xanadu, yeah. No, I think Xanadu is the indoor skiing, and like it's like an action park or something. I think that's the Xanadu. I think the arena is separate from that.
Okay.
I'm looking this up. The Meadowlands Racetrack. Oh, it's called MetLife Stadium. I'm sorry, MetLife Stadium.
Well, yeah,
Stadium is MetLife.
Yeah. As a Giants fan, I should know.
Dome, the closed-in thing.
But that
used to be the Brennan Burn Arena.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Devils,
Yes, it
Devils.
was.
Yep, absolutely.
I just showed my age on that one.
Joe, aren't you a hockey fan too? Or am I totally mistaken? Or Rob,
I'm a diehard Rangers fan. Have been for many moons. I have to admit, I haven't had as much time this season to watch the games I'd like to watch, but yeah, I love the Rangers.
You start to prioritize. You start to prioritize things. I was a big Rangers fan, and I went to go. I worked in New York, and the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. So me and this guy John Hand and another guy that I don't remember, guys that I worked with. We went to see the parade. We saw this was when Messier guaranteed the win, right? So Messier was like God, you know, he was going down Broadway. It was like the was like Jesus had appeared, and it was the billions of millions of people, whatever. There was tons of people. So we watched him pass by. Everybody's excited. We walked back like we're going to start going back to work. And the guy taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, can you tell me how to get to this whatever train?" And we turn around. It's Al Roker, right? And I'm like,
hold on, which one? The fat one or the skinny one? Because there's a couple versions.
He would have been
that one, yes.
Fat Al Roker. Nice.
Fat Al Roker. So Fat Al Roker says to me, he goes, "Can you tell me how to get to this train?" And in the midst of that, we're like, "Oh, we want to take pictures with Al Roker," but this was like before cell phones, you know what I mean? It's like we're telling people to take pictures with. I don't know. It was totally crazy. But you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know, you know, whatever. He was a real nice guy. We helped him get on the 2-3 train or wherever the hell he wanted to go, and you know, and he made it. But I just thought that you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know how it's going to be. But I haven't watched a Rangers game in a while myself. I just got back into football. I got tired of all the kneeling bullshit, but this year they're not doing that anymore. So I said, let me watch a little football on Sundays after the Formula One races. And you know, but you want to, as you get older, you want to do more. Now, Lisa's a young chicken. She's probably mid-20s, if I had to guess.
Oh, I love that compliment. I am 32 years old.
I'm 50. I'm 51. I'm 51. You're 51. Rob, how old are you?
52.
I am 52.
Are you really?
I am.
I didn't know that. You look young and spry, but you start to want to do more. Look at Lisa. Lisa's like, that's not true. If you guys don't know, Lisa and Rob have the same last name because that's Uncle Rob. But we'll, you know, whatever.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
But I guess you get into like you want to do more. So like I've been creating lists of shit that I want to do. I've gotten into like doing a lot of physical fitness things, and that's what's always, I think, been, as you get older, you start to want to do those things. You see like, oh, I can't keep up with the guys on the construction site, so you're like, fuck that, I got to go work out 5 nights a week like a lunatic so I can lift, you know, 5-gallon buckets of spackle. It's nonsensical, but at the end of the day, it makes you feel like you're, you know, it makes you feel important. So that feel important makes you feel healthier and stronger. I think you change from watching to wanting to do more. So like you get it all, you know, the fear of missing out, you get it all in before you kick the bucket. And I think that's
kind of why I'm kind of true. I think that's why my wife and I are decided to wrap up Kruise Fest. You know, there's so much to do and so much to see. We kind of want to, you know, like you said, you're 50. She's turning 50 this year in January. You know, we're like, okay, fine, we're 50. We can deal with that. But holy crap, there is less days ahead than there were behind. You know, I'm trying to drop some pounds. So the two of us have been doing things together to try to do that. And, you know, like you said, you focus, you just change your priorities, and everything's a little different now. And it's like, as much as we love music and love going to shows, I don't need to be the guy putting the show to go do that. And I think that just frees up some time. But that being said, you know, you were talking about how you met Al Roker in New York, things like that, you know, cities like that, New York, Los Angeles, you know, these are cities where you could bump into an Al Roker on the street.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm trying to think of famous people, you know, I don't know. We're in New York. My wife and I are having a lunch in Brooklyn, just sitting out at like some cafe, and the bass player singer from Mastodon just walked past us, and we're like, oh crap, that's the guy from Mastodon. You know, if I'm doing that in Trenton, New Jersey, that's not happening.
Oh, someone might steal your lunch at Trenton.
You know.
But Trenton had the opportunity.
Right, exactly.
Trenton had the opportunity. They have that arena. They had Conduit across the street from the arena.
Kiss played there, by the way. Kiss played there.
Kiss did play at that arena.
They played there. Yeah,
I actually did the pre-pour for that show.
Yeah,
and it's, you know, I'm going back now 22 years. We did that.
Yep.
What's funny with that, and you talk about Trenton. When I had at that point, my wife and I were running Jersey Style magazine. It was the entertainment thing for the state. We blew it up. It got big. It basically collapsed when the towers fell because everything changed. But for that show, we had 1,500 people at the Conduit. It was packed. It was actually called, it wasn't the Conduit then. It was Urban Word.
Urban Word Cafe, yep.
Right. Our same room, and we were packed. They told me it was the best night they ever had. Kiss actually gave us a 24-inch Ace doll because we pushed 3,000 tickets to that show through our magazine. It was a lot of fun, a lot of event, but you know, that same arena, I tried to book Billy Joel.
Right.
And Electric Factory blocked it because Electric Factory has final say over that venue. Nope, can't do it. Okay. Try to book Destiny's Child back in the day. Nope, can't do it. So what you have in that particular arena, you have a corporate entity that is running that arena for the community, for the county, and they're dictating who comes and goes. And the reason they do it is if you put Destiny's Child in Trenton, it's within striking distance of New York and Philly.
Yeah.
So they say, no, let's put them in the bigger arena. We'll make more money there. Whether they play that arena or not, they keep them out of the small arena. But when we had the magazine, we had the vehicle to push it, and they didn't let us. They blocked us with both shows, and I was like, you know what? They're going to block me with anybody I bring in, unless I bring in a bunch of has-been band. You know, how do you put 8,000 people to a has-been show? You can't. You got to do a much smaller version.
Right.
So we just let it go. But that arena is there in spite of itself.
It is the only time that I'm on their website now. So Rob, if you want to pull up the Pure Insurance Arena, right? The only time I've been there recently is my daughter graduated from high school, and that's where they had the arena. That's where they had the event at the arena. I think that a lot of the arena is dark more than it's being used, and I think that that's an absolute shame because I remember when it first opened up. I think it was PST or one of those shows. They had like a Christmas show there.
I built it,
and I thought it was great. You did the sound system there,
we
right,
built
Rob?
it. Yeah, we built it. We had to build that sound system 5 months in a garage towards the end of the winter into the fall, into the spring. Yeah, 5 months to build. We had so that arena when they built it, you know, obviously there was nothing around it, right? So they enclosed it. So the catwalk already has all the built-in sound engineering. So all the racks are built into the catwalk. Right. So when you go on there, you don't have to go down to a separate area. The catwalk is built into everything, and all the sound stuff is there. Long story short, we had to build a fake sound system in a garage, in a 2-car garage, took up the whole thing, then take it apart, take all the equipment out, and you know how everything was connected electronically in these large snakes. Then we had to go and reinstall that, because the speakers were going to be there with the leads. All we had to do is we had to bring our master system over. But yeah, that show is an amazing place. I mean, you want to go see, like, you know, a show with only seats like 7,000 or 8,000 people. It is an amazing place to see a concert.
That whole area of Trenton. So I was always a big advocate for Trenton until the last couple of years. I had an office there. I owned a bunch of real estate there. I had a lot of success in Trenton. But Trenton, like you said, Trenton, like the arena is there in spite of itself. Trenton, it does nothing to want to help Trenton. So just there, you have the arena, you have Conduit. So Roland Pott owned Conduit. I'm good friends with Roland. Roland was a visionary when he did that stuff over there, and it never worked out for him. It never. There was always some kind of issue. But the city should have embraced that. They embraced the arena, the baseball stadium. They should have embraced that arena, and they should have done. There was a hockey team that played there at one point.
Yeah,
basketball team.
We actually were sponsors of the hockey team. They were called the Trenton Titans.
Trenton Titans. Yeah.
They were originally Devils, and then they became Flyers.
Right. But now there's nothing.
But then what happened is the minor league hockey kind of did one of their revisions about their divisions, and then then they discontinued their.
They got rid of the ACL.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
That's
I was
exactly
after that first season as well, Rob. We sponsored the Jersey Style magazine logo was on their bench,
Yep.
along the whole length of the bench. And on their inaugural game, they took a picture of the guy coming out of that bench, like skating on the bench with the fireworks.
Yep.
And our Jersey Style logo was right behind him. It's on the cover of the paper. I just thought it was kind of cool. As a guy starting a business, to get that kind of press was nice.
And now, like, think about the jobs that would bring, and think about if they had a concert there every Saturday night, or however these tours work. I don't know a lot about the business of music, but if they had something there, like the only thing that's on their website is Jeff Dunham and Shree Ghoshal. I don't know who she is. Something about Pop Warner cheerleading. There's a cheer dance step concert. They should have all of these things. Plus, they should have some bigger name. Like here's a wrestling match, Ryder and Penn State Wrestling. They have some cool stuff. Trenton Punk Flea Market. What, did you steal the chair?
No, it's the sign. We were sponsors. We had a cheesecake store, Kenny's Cheesecakes, and this is a sign.
They didn't give me an official sponsor sign.
Well, I had to make my own because they're too cheap to make. I had to make my own.
Yeah, they were cheap.
And we used to have a store in Cruiser Plaza, and this was in the window. But it's funny, they were actually good, but the management sucked, and they overextended themselves and took everyone's season ticket money, knowing that they weren't having a team next year. And then
that's gangster.
Out probably about 30 days. And then they figured out that, thankfully I paid with a credit card and I was able to, it was fraudulent. So I got my money back, but I know a lot of people who paid cash and that never got their tickets. So anyway, fun fact, there you go.
I often wonder when you see cities deteriorating, like Trenton as an example, and we could talk about Philly, we could talk about whatever. I'm in Philly 3 days a week. It's brutal. But when you look at like a city like Trenton, that's a small city that could really, really benefit from the stadium, the arena, Arm & Hammer Stadium, the arena, a place like Conduit, some restaurants downtown. They never, ever, ever allowed any of that to flourish. I had a couple of buildings on South Broad Street. They were so insane about what color you painted the building, and was it historic, and did you use real wood windows, or did you which were $1,000 a piece, or did you install vinyl windows, which you weren't allowed to do? They focused on all of the wrong things, and they never focused on a thing to say, hey, we have something that could be a big money maker for the town, for the city. We have something that could employ a lot of people. We could take that couple blocks of South Broad Street in either direction. We can really, really develop it and turn it into something special, so people will want to come to Trenton. The sports teams don't even stay in Trenton. When they had a hotel, the Trenton Marriott, they wouldn't even stay in Trenton. They would book in Princeton and drive down Route 1 from Princeton. They didn't do any fucking thing right. And I don't understand it. How do you fail at everything? Like they failed at
one word.
What's that?
One word.
I'm afraid to ask.
Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy.
Yeah. I agree. 100%.
And the politicians that do and run our county, quite honestly, which includes Trenton as well as Princeton and some other townships.
Sure.
And I know I ran for office, but I got to be honest with you, the level of, I don't want to call it corruption, but it's corruption. It's not quite to the level that we see on a national level. It made me never want to be involved with politics again. I got involved with politics and ran for office because I wanted to try to make a difference.
Sure.
And once I got elected, I didn't get elected, but if I did get elected, my wife and I said, if I couldn't make a difference in my first term, I'm not staying, because then they're just a stuffed shirt like everybody else.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Once I ran for office and realized the level of corruption, I guess you can call it, I was like, you know what? This isn't for me. I can't change it. I'm never going to change it. Not one guy. It's too big. It's, you're David and Goliath.
Yeah. It's a shame, because I remember we had donated, this is years ago. Oh, like this is like early 2000s. We donated $5,000. I owned a bail bond company, and we had a very close relationship with a lot of people in law enforcement when we had the bail bond company. Some off the books relationships and some on the books relationships. And we decided that we found out that it cost, I don't know, $500 to buy a bulletproof vest back then for a police officer. So we had decided that we had did a lot of work with the Mercer County Sheriff's Department. We were going to donate $5,000 to the Mercer County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to get and they'll be able to buy 10 bulletproof vests with this $5,000. So the county, I can't remember the guy's name. The county, he's not the county commissioner, county executive, Brian Hughes. Brian Hughes. He was the county executive. I don't know if he still is or not, or whatever. He said, "Oh, I want to meet these guys and take a picture with them." So now this guy's been if he's still the county guy, he's been in office for 20 plus years, which he was already in office when we gave him the check. So it was me and my business partner, and we had a check, an actual check, and we wanted to hand a check to Brian in the picture, and just have a picture with the guy, and we wanted to just have goodwill from this picture, right? $5,000 of goodwill. Sure. They get 10 bulletproof vests. He wouldn't touch the check. Like, he wouldn't physically touch the check. It was like a real standoffish kind of like thing. And so the lady said, "Yeah, you can't stand too close to him. He won't touch the check. You have to hand me the check when we're done." I'm like, what the fuck world do we live in? So we have this meeting and we do this. This is going back to early 2000s. And we walk out. My business partner's name was Eric, and he said, "Ray," he goes, "we will never ever donate to any bullshit like this again." He goes, "This was like the biggest slap in the face. We just handed these guys $5,000 to buy these bulletproof vests. We have a spectacular relationship with the people on the street. We should have handed this check to the sheriff. They wouldn't let us do that. We had to give it to Brian Hughes, and Brian Hughes wouldn't physically touch the check. He wouldn't shake our hands. He wouldn't stand like close to us in the picture." So there's like, I gotta ask Eric, I gotta find this picture. There's like Brian Hughes is in the middle of the picture, and then there's like me, and then there's like Eric. It's like the most ridiculous thing. I'm thinking to myself, why? And anybody we ever donated money to or did anything with, all these politicians got arrested. They all got anytime we donated to a campaign or a golf event, it just got to a point where it was like, we don't want to do this anymore. Either these guys are all getting indicted or getting in trouble for something, or they don't want to have a relationship with you. Even as a contributor, like, we weren't giving the money to him, we were giving the money to the sheriff's department. And I think maybe it would have been a different story if we gave the $5,000 to him, because maybe he wanted the $5,000, but that's not what that was about. It was about helping our friends who were helping us, and that's what it was about. But what did you run for? When did you run for office, and what was the position that you were running for?
I'll tell you a quick story. I ran for Mercer County Freeholder, which is now commissioner. Yeah. It was 2004 and 2005, and then I did it again in 2009. 04 and 2005 was basically like, in 2004 I was on for 6 weeks. I was a replacement candidate, but I just kept running straight through into the next year.
Smart.
I just kept campaigning. I only missed it by like 2,500 votes, which in Mercer County for a Republican candidate to get that many votes was actually pretty good. I was close. The problem is that when you see what was going on, and one of the guys I ran against, Tony Mack, who is now in jail.
He's in jail.
In fact, I gave the local paper. All kinds of information. I gave them all kinds of information about Tony Mack, how he was corrupt and where the money was going, and then but they didn't run it. They ran it. They waited until after election day, just like Hunter's laptop on the national level. Yeah. This was our local laptop. They didn't run any of it because they didn't want it to affect the election, when it should have affected him, because people should have known the person that was running for office. Right. Instead, they didn't put it out there until after he got elected. After he beat me in the election, then they put it out there. Then it got corrupt. Then it was on the front page of the Trent Times after the election. It's so obvious the open your eyes and look at it, you realize, one, there is no real media. Two, politicians are corrupt. And three, they're not going to do anything for you unless they get something from it.
100%.
So I just kind of bailed. I walked away from politics. I told them all to go pound sand, and I just went about my life.
I think the big things that are important to run for now, well, first of all, I'm going to say media, I often wonder this. My goal, and these guys always laugh when we were talking about the goals of the show, is I want to get 400,000 views on the podcast, or listens, or both, a combination of both. And I want to do that because that's how many viewers Trevor Noah has before he got fired. So I feel like I want to have like a Trevor Noah day, and it's going to be when we hit 400,000 views or listens, right? So fuck Trevor Noah. That's number one. Number two is I don't know who's watching. No one's reading the Trentonian or Trenton Times anymore. They have zero circulation or publication, zero. Next is zero. I think that this is what we're doing here is the present, and it's also the future. Long form podcasting, where you can have a conversation about, like, they really are mismanaging this arena, or they really suck at this, or my politician, my guy sucks at that. I've been both a registered Democrat and a registered Republican. I am a registered independent now, and I vote for who I think is going to do the best job. But the problem is a lot of these guys that are running can't do the best job. And people who can do the best job don't want to run. I think I would be a great mayor of Hamilton, or I would be awesome on the school board, or I would be awesome. And I know people who would be even better than me. Not one of them motherfuckers has any interest of having their backgrounds, their kids harassed, their families harassed, being put into positions that are unable to properly answer. I think that those situations right now, if you wanted to be mayor of Hamilton right now, you could run on a platform of crime and homelessness. There's homeless people in every shopping center in Hamilton, on every corner of in Hamilton Township. It's the same in West Windsor, and it's the same in Trenton, and it's the same. That you could run and you can win. But what you could do beyond that, and actually when it's actually time to do the job, I think it is where it becomes very, very difficult. I think it's time for some really true independent voices.
Doing the job is one thing. Getting the job is another. When I was running for office in 05, which is the year I got really, really close, the opposition knew that I was getting close, and they had a woman who was in charge of information at the county essentially release my medical information to the media, which we all know is illegal. There's HIPAA violations. There's political ramifications. Oh, it's just illegal all the way around.
Right.
Husband, friend of mine, and I'm going to leave their names out of it. But bottom line is they released information that they were trying to use against me. That's my medical information. And I remember in the papers, do you have a problem with this? And I'm like, well, people should have more of a problem with an administration that's going to release people's private and personal medical information to try to gain votes. It was very in media. You see what's going on. It's 10 times worse. But yeah, it was a personal thing. It is what it is. I'm glad I walked away. The life is too short to spend doing things that don't matter.
I was a little recently motivated. In the past, I was asked to run for school board. I said, absolutely not. I was asked to run for assembly, and I ended up becoming Dan Benson, who's our assemblyman now, is a good friend of mine. I ended up becoming his treasurer. Right. It was great. Good experience. I really, really liked it. Everything was great. I found out that my next door neighbor, right, who is a diehard liberal person, is going to run for what's it called, for Hamilton Township, not committee. Yeah, I guess not committee, like
council.
It's not the
council.
Yeah, Hamilton Township Council. That's it. It really motivated me because, and this sounds absolutely nuts, but all politics are local. This lady feeds her birds, right? And we can't get her to stop feeding pigeons. So we have literally a flock of about 60 pigeons, right? That shit all over our neighborhood. And the town can't do anything about it. And they sent people over there. To their credit, they have tried. But at the end of the day, they can't do anything about it. So like for a second, I thought, you know what? I'm going to run for Hamilton Township Council. I'm going to be councilman, and I'm going to make changes. And I thought to myself, I'm 51 years old, right? Why on earth do I want to put myself through this torture? They could release, for me, they could release my medical records. They could talk about my son being in recovery. They could do anything. So you have to have the toughest skin on earth. I truly don't care. I would just, my vision would be to just stay on message and to just keep on moving forward. But I think it's really, really hard as someone who's an independent to break the ranks of people are going to vote Democrat, people are going to vote Republican, and they feel like they know what they're going to get. When you're that third party guy who's like an independent, I think it's really, really hard to get in there. And then once you get in there, you're never going to have the votes that you need. You're constantly trying to form a coalition. Everybody's a Democrat in Hamilton. Hamilton's nuts. For 4 years, it's all Republican, and then they all get voted out. And then the next 4 years, they're all Democrats, and then they all get voted out. And then this just goes on and on and on forever. It's a beautiful place to live. And thank God there's somebody in charge somewhere who I think knows how to run the town and knows what they're doing, because I think the people who are elected, I don't know. You know, I mean, we have a good police force. I've had to call them in the past, and they've been great. We have, the streets are clean. The trees are trimmed. Our parks are beautiful. So somebody's doing something right, but it's no matter who the administration is, those things always happen. So, you know, I think it's at this stage of my life, I think it would be crazy to run for office, but where do you get that good person? Who wants to do it? Rob, would you ever run for office?
Well, let's say this.
Would you ever run for office?
No matter, like, they did a poll the other day. They say that 39% of the people think the country is going in the right direction. Now, I didn't ask anyone
fucking nuts
in this meeting who thinks either things are good or bad, but I think we should all agree that we're not going in the right direction. We're not even making a call on whether we're doing good or bad. And we live in a world where 20% rule the world, meaning that 40% of the people would vote for Donald Duck if he was Republican, and 40% of the world would vote for Daffy Duck because it was a Democrat. Yeah. So the 20% of the world dictate what happens back and forth. And it's just that way in Congress when you have those blue dogs, and you have the ones that are, you know, not quite Democrats, but not quite Republicans, and they bounce back and forth on the side of each side of the aisle to try to get stuff done. That's the way the world is. So it's a tough world to live in, but no, I would never do it. I say to myself, I had to get off the news about 2-3 years ago because I was literally losing my mind. Because I'm like, before it even happened, I'm like, these people don't even understand that the person that they're electing as president will not even be fit within a year. So I just go off the news. I just stop. I'm like blackout. So what's happening now is exactly what I knew. Yesterday he said, let me tell you 2 words. You know, made in America. I'm saying to myself, how can this guy have his hand on a nuclear football? I just don't understand how that's even legally possible anymore at this point.
Thank you. It makes you wonder who's really running things, because it's definitely not him.
Listen,
that doesn't even know that.
My strategy was, Ray, this. There's only 3 things I can really, really affect in my world. My finances, my family, and my friends. And I feel that if you take care of your finances and you're doing okay for yourself, you can help other people when they need help. Your family, you're always going to take care of them, just even more in times like this. And your friends, you don't know. Sometimes you have to help your friends like you would help family, and that's totally cool. But I think that's the only real way to make a difference in this world. The government is just what it is. There's nothing I can ever do to control it. I knew that this was going to happen when he was running for it. Unfortunately, Donald Trump just couldn't stop being Donald Trump in the first debate, and it turned off so many independents that it was like, we can't have this guy. I had enough of him. I can't. It was like, okay, we tried. I'm sorry. We're done with this. I can't. That day was the day that it went. And I says, a year or 2 from now, he's going to literally like get lost trying to walk off the stage. You see that one? He was on a stage where he walked on the right, and he was done speaking, and he wasn't supposed to leave, and then he was trying to walk off the right side of the stage that there was no stairs, and he was trying to figure out how to get down.
Rob, there has to be like a greatest hits video of Joe Biden being Joe Biden.
Oh, there is. I'll get
there
one.
Has to be.
Hold up.
But like Lisa, would you ever run for office or no?
Kind of what Joe was saying, you know, from being in the military, no. Being kind of on that opposite end of things.
Right.
You know, it's politics in it. There's politics in the military.
Sure.
I got, without getting into specifics, I got screwed over really bad. And it was all political, and people reached out to me after the fact. Why they didn't intervene? Because they were scared of losing their status, their ranking. So I agree with Joe wholeheartedly, and my uncle Rob, because I think it's a disaster. And it's just, you may think you're making a difference, and you may want to get there initially, but once you're there, you're just another pawn.
So the best way to get something done, if you
it's going to be great.
Holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway. We're going to get a lot done. Cicadas. I just got one. Got me.
This guy's great. Here we go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, again. There he goes.
One more.
I'm okay.
As I said earlier. You did. I did.
Anyway.
This guy's great.
We have fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago. Fewer. Not more. Fewer.
Is that true? Jesus Christ.
Remind him, I wrote the bill on the environment. On the environment. On the environment.
Lord help us all.
Why would I not be for it? That's a serious question, right? It's acceptable to me. Come on. Because of the actions we've taken, things have begun to change. End of quote. In the past 3 weeks, I'm especially honored to share the stage with Brittany and Jordan and Nathan and Margaret Catherine. I love those barrettes in her hair, man.
Oh my God.
Fuck, bro.
Look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there like a little lady in her legs crossed.
What the fuck is he talking about?
You're doing triple duty.
I can't.
Meetings going here in Cornwall.
Very well.
Come on.
How do you realistically and physically keep these families from coming to the U.S. when things will not get better in their country?
Is it about?
Where the fuck's he going?
What is he doing?
I can't guarantee that, but I know,
What
that
the-
whole thing.
It's not a fucking TED Talk, bro.
Lisa just said it's not a TED Talk.
Bro.
That's how he's treating it. Tell me I'm wrong.
Listen.
Listen, that's scary on many levels. I mean, that's only the one. That's only the one chapter of it. There's a couple of them here. So
Oh my God, stop. I can't.
super scary. It's
So
super-
I
one where
didn't vote
he
for
was
either
taking
character. Okay, Joe, I'm sorry.
The one where he was trying to shake the hand of somebody who wasn't there.
Oh
That
shit.
was-
that
That's
was,
one of my
a
favorites.
big-
That's the ghost one.
that was on top.
Yeah,
of mind.
that's
Top of
a
mind.
little crazy.
Top of mind. It's okay. You
Speaking
can
of
look
ghosts,
at
the
dead
complete
people.
What's the
change of
Easter
subject.
one? What's
Oh,
the Easter one I saw?
Oh, the Easter Bunny. Yeah, the Easter Bunny. This is a great one. Yeah, let me get that one.
The Easter bunnies. The Easter
Like,
bunnies.
You know
fabulous.
shit's haywire when the fucking Easter bunny has.
It's bad when the Easter Bunny has
Well,
to
that
go.
was didn't they have like the assistant, wasn't the assistant secretary in the Easter Bunny suit?
Yeah, you're right.
That's exactly what it was.
And then,
Here it is.
and then because they wanted to keep
Incognito.
Here it is.
Like the political cock.
First of all, Sky News Australia is fucking money. These guys are great. The bunny was labeled Joe Biden's handler by Twitter users who profusely mocked the president. Biden was seen speaking with reporters and guests at the White House Easter egg roll when he began discussing Pakistan out of nowhere. The bunny was quick to stop the president from further discussing the U.S. military chaotic withdrawal from Kabul. Or I said Afghanistan, sorry. It's unknown who is dressed in the Easter bunny costume. It's probably Joe Biden. Maybe they're into that Furby stuff. The video was going viral on social media.
Wait a minute, Furby foreplay?
Maybe they're into Furby foreplay. President and Joe Biden.
We're not going to skip over that, are we?
Yeah, no, I've never heard of that shit.
That
like,
one.
well,
We got
what
right
is
to
that
problem.
about?
Write that one down, Lisa.
Wait, you guys know that, right?
I mean, you clearly know all the Brazzers kinks. Clearly.
I'm a big fan of Brazzers.
You have way too much time on your hands.
Listen, there is nothing wrong with watching porn.
No.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I will tell you, I'm a fan of Brazzers. I refuse to pay for porn. I watched it, just the Brazzer clips is good enough for me on the free porn sites. I'm totally happy with that. But there's a group of people out there that they dress up in animal costumes. What time it is? They're called Furbies, and these Furby, right? So maybe Joe Biden, maybe Jill's in there, right?
That's an image in my head that I can't unsee. Thank you. Friggin' Marionette Biden with.
Oh, that's great! Oh my gosh, you guys made me laugh. So Biden likes Furbies. All right, that's good. Let's start that rumor. That'll be a winner. It won't matter because he'll be president and a young girl. That's kind of weird. I mean, at the end of the day, like he has this but no one talks about it. It's
people ignore it. That's why.
That's the thing. That's like if Trump said one bad thing, these guys went fucking bananas. But Biden can talk about anything he wants to talk about. Say all this outlandish shit.
The vice president would have said that stuff. Like the vice president, who was Republican, would have said that we are working on a strategic partnership with North Korea. The world, CNN did like a 24-hour news thing on it about how Donald Trump must be impeached. They would have said that. If anyone would have said that, the fact that he works with Donald Trump, he should be impeached too. They should have did it, and they would have done it.
Here's what I don't understand. I don't think that these guys have too much time left in office. I think you'll see Republicans win the House at least, and maybe even the Senate. But they've had all this time now with this is where nothing gets done. And this is how you know this system is broken. They have Republican House, they have Democrat House, Democrat Senate, Democrat President. They can't pass anything. They're complaining, oh my God, there's no more abortion. You have control of all the major players in government. Protect abortion if that's what you want to do. Why aren't, let me get an answer from you guys. Why can't these guys do that? If they're so worried about abortion, if they're so worried about the green, whatever shit, why can't they pass laws while they still have control and pass these laws? There's got to be some reasoning why marijuana is still illegal on the federal level when you have all Democrats in control of all the houses of the government. The same thing with abortion. They said, oh my God, abortion's illegal. You're in charge of everything. But
abortion's not illegal. That's a problem. Abortion is still abortion. If you want to go get one, you can get one. Now, if you don't want to live in a state where they have more strict guidelines on it, then you don't have the option of not living there. We don't have to have papers to go state to state. We can go anywhere we like to in this country. So you can go anywhere you want. There's no reason that if you want to get an abortion on demand, I mean, let's figure out something between conception and sticking a pair of scissors in a baby's head before it comes out. Let's do something in between there, come up with a reasonable solution, and then take it from there. But the end of the day, nothing will happen for the next 2 years because he's going to lose the Senate. He'll probably lose both.
I think so.
It's going to be lame duck. Nothing will be brought up. There will be at least 1 or 2 government closures because when you have to go on the budget, he wants a budget and they're going to give him something that's like a goodie bag for the Republicans, and then he's not going to sign it, and we'll have a government closure for whatever that will take. So all this is going to happen. But remember, while all this is happening, we'll have $5 gas.
Yeah.
And we'll have 2 or 3 years of $5 gas.
I think he'll get impeached. I think that if the
How?
Republicans
How do you get rid of him and not have her as vice president? Because he's so bad. If she was even any decent, he would already probably not be here. Because remember, she can serve 1 day less than 2 years and then be eligible to run for 2 full terms of president. So she in theory could be president for 1 day shy of 10 years and still be eligible for 2 full terms. And if she was viable, I think they would have done it already, because at this point,
she's not viable.
At this point, he can't even handle it now. How is he going to do it 6 more years of that? Unless he's on the best Adderall ever made, that maybe they have something special for him. But there's no way that's going to last 6 more years. I'm sorry.
No, he won't. He won't.
Joe, what do you think? I mean, you agree, right?
I don't think he's going to run again. Personally, I mean, at that point, he's going to be 80 years old or 81 years old. And, you know, if you look at him, even from the campaign trail to now, it's different. The rigors of this job is obviously affecting him. Now, I wasn't the huge Trump fan. I do think his policies were okay, but Trump as the person was just so polarizing.
Ugh.
It was too much. But I will say this, he held that office. I don't think the workload bothered him. I think he was able to do it. I think that's the problem, is we need people in office that can handle. You watch every president that gets elected. By the time they're done their term, they look like shit. Yeah. They're all gray. They're old. They're whipped. Look at Clinton. Clinton looks like when he, from start to finish, that 8 years.
Yeah, but Obama, look at Obama. Obama went from like black hair, super energetic, to being almost completely gray.
Right.
Yeah.
And he seemed virile enough. I think that Clinton was virile enough. I think Trump, for all of his inadequacies, if you want to call that, he was also virile enough and able to handle the rigors of the job. Joe Biden cannot. And they basically wanted him as the candidate because they had to beat Trump. Yeah. And they didn't have anybody else. Who were you going to put? Kamala Harris?
No.
I mean, she couldn't carry a sentence if you put it in a bag.
I think.
And she's a hypocrite. She's a terrible, terrible hypocrite.
I do think Joe Biden's not going to run. And I don't know when they do that, but I think it's going to happen.
After this,
it's going to be about before 3 years. It's going to be before 3 years.
He'll announce that he's not going to run. They're right now they're teasing that, oh yes, I'm stable, I'm going, because they have a midterm. Mm-hmm. But after the midterm and they lose the Senate, which I think they will, by a slim margin, and they'll lose the House probably by a much larger margin. Mm-hmm. I think at that point the Democrats realize that Joe Biden is not going to be able to handle the rigors of running for re-election, let alone running the office.
But the thing is that, like, how does he stay in office? How do they keep him in office? Because you have to keep him in office enough to be viable, but not enough to make Kamala Harris the president to be.
I'll tell you,
or the nominee, because they don't want that either.
I'll give you my opinion. I'll give you my opinion on this. He's got to get impeached 100%. That as soon as the Republicans take control of the House, they're going to 100% go after him and Hunter. 100%. But it's going to take them so long to accomplish anything. And even if they impeach him, it's got to go to the Senate for a trial. And that's going to take forever. Next thing you know, he announces, I'm not running for president anymore for a second term. She's not going to do it. She's not a viable candidate. And then they're going to have, whoever they're going to run. And it's all the same names. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, who's 100-year-old socialist.
I have the ticket for you.
Pete Buttigieg, you know what I mean? It's all the same fucking
It's going to be Gavin. It's going to be Gavin.
Maybe.
It's for 100% will be. Gavin Newsom's going to go be the Democrat nominee. And the governor of Florida is going to be.
Oh, he's going to be the next president.
He's going to be the Republican nominee for sure.
Yeah, DeSantis will be the next president.
Ron DeSantis is going to rock it. He's going to be fine. He's got Donald Trump in him, but he's got a super hot first lady. Yeah, and it's gonna. I think he's going to get the job done. A lot of people like living in Florida, and as we know, it's a state that is always in flux, and that whether that's either physically or from the environment or whatever's going on, or people like leaving New York and coming to Florida. I mean, it's one of the most densely populated areas of our country right now, almost as much as New York used to be. So it really is getting pretty crazy when you think about it.
Gavin Newsom will pick another ultra liberal running mate
Oh, yeah.
The issue that you have with that is Gavin
AOC.
Newsom.
We'll get AOC as a VP. How about that?
That would be fucking insane. First of all, but he's
I'm gonna say something right now.
Go ahead, let me hear it.
If AOC gets elected to vice president of the United States, I will move.
No, you won't.
All those people say,
the wife is there. The wife is checking him immediately in the podcast. His wife will immediately threw him to the girl.
My wife is saying,
we're staying here.
My wife is saying, you won't move. You won't move to this country. That's a scary.
Where are you? But here's the thing, though. He's young. The problem with Newsom is Newsom's handsome, right? He's very like Kennedy-esque, right? So then you get DeSantis, and DeSantis is like a bull in a china shop. I think DeSantis wins. I think that they could run. I think that they could run anyone as a Republican, and I think they'll beat the Democrat. I think the Democrats will get California, they'll get whatever, but I think the rest of the country is fed up with all this bullshit.
I think it's gonna be Jimmy, because remember, to get a Ronald Reagan style presidency for 8 years, you needed to have Jimmy Carter. And I think for you to get a really good Republican nominee, if the Republicans are going to take over, you need your own Jimmy Carter. So there's no Ronald Reagan without Jimmy Carter, and there's probably going to be no Ron DeSantis without having Joe Biden.
Yeah,
you know,
that's really good.
Remember, we live in a world now where people hate a person so much personality-wise that they would vote in a person that they know would not be competent for 4 years. They were okay with that. So if it doesn't scare the shit out of you, the world.
Where Trump made his mistake, where Trump somebody should have said to him, listen,
chill out.
Donald, shut the fuck up. Don't talk. Just do. We're going to let you talk for 15 minutes a day, right? You can say whatever you want, anything you want, and just whatever nonsense you want to say. But we're going to continue to put forth these policies, and you're going to get reelected. Now, if he would have done that, it would have been great. But unfortunately, that didn't happen because he's a bigger than life personality, Trump, and that's what happened. There's no way the Democrats get anything accomplished in the next month. I think they lose both the Senate and the House, and I think you'll see Biden, his son, his family all get impeached. And I think that's what you'll see. It'll take forever. Nothing will ever come of it because nothing ever does come of it. And you'll see someone like DeSantis. Now, DeSantis has to have a good running mate, and he has to shut the fuck up too, which I think he's pretty good at. Like he knows when to speak. If he does those things, they could run anybody against him. I think the people will say, like, we've had enough of $5 gas. We've had enough of nonsense with some of these other green energy policies and so on and so forth. And I'm all pro environment. I'm all for it, but you can't do everything 100% today. We need to have common sense abortion laws. We have a common sense drug laws. But then if you give this guy the chance and DeSantis gets the job, he's got to be able to do these things. And none of these guys ever accomplish shit. Ever. None of them ever accomplish anything. So, Joe, where would you move if you weren't living in the United States? You can't go to Canada because they're lunatics in Canada.
I wouldn't.
You can't go to Mexico because you'll get the shits every day, so you can't go there. So where could you go? Oh, kiss Cruise.
I got to be honest with you, I would be content with getting a houseboat and boating out to sea. It's so screwed up here anymore. It's crazy. Patrice and I were just talking about it the other day. We're like, your whole life, all you want to do is try to retire at some point.
Yeah.
And we're going over stuff, and we're like, it's not. We're going to be working until I'm 75 years old.
Yeah.
It's
all of us.
All of us. A state job, and you're retired at 60. It's just. So I don't know. Where would I move? Italy. I always wanted to. I'd probably move to Italy. They have a great new person in charge too.
Yeah. Then they have a new prime minister over there that they say he's a fascist and all this nonsense, but that's none of that is true. That's all media propaganda. All right, let's talk about positive
what
things.
You guys are showing.
There's Ace Frehley.
This is Kruise Fest 29. This was taken from the stage by. You see how that name is? He's another fan. a friend of mine, he goes on the cruise, and this guy playing with Ace right now, one of the guitar players from Accept. But long story short, Randy is a fan. He took all his pictures. He just did it because he loves Kiss. He loves the event. And, like I said, this event, Kruise Fest, has always been by the fans, for the fans. I've said that from day one. We pushed it. And all these pictures, this was a concert in Miami that we did in 2019. That guy right there, he's got playing the V. His name's Ryan Cook. He's on the left in that one picture there. He's just such a happy guy. And I asked him, I said, Ryan, I said, you're always smiling, man. It's like you're like the happiest rock star. And he, I was a Kiss fan, and now I'm playing with Ace. Yeah. Wouldn't you be smiling too? And he was also in Gene Simmons' solo band. So this year's a little different. We have a little less of a Kiss feel to the event. It's a little bit more of a rock show with Slaughter being the headliner. Although you do get your 6 degrees of Kiss by getting Slaughter, or because of the Vinny Vincent angle, Yeah. But I've done shows with Vinny too. We did we did an event with Vinny at 18, and I'm happy to say I'm still the only promoter that had Vinny play with a live band.
Now, didn't you do guitars? Didn't you do guitars with Vinny Vincent? Wasn't that something I remember at one point you were designing custom guitars with him?
I pitched him a whole prospectus on ways we could make a lot of money together. And then he basically said, okay, what do I need you for? I'll do it myself.
Oh my God.
Which is typical. Of course, it didn't work out right. Things got screwed up. He didn't do it. I had people calling me wanting to know about, problems that were going on, and like, hey, I have nothing to do with it. You got to reach out to him directly. Yeah. And that was basically the end of my working relationship with him. And there are sometimes, you've heard the expression, you dodge a bullet. I dodged a howitzer. I dodged a howitzer. Trust me.
Yep. Somebody's got, this is what I've learned. I've had successful business. I've failed. I've been in all aspects of that. And you don't know everything. You have to surround yourself with people like that know what you don't know, and that are people who believe in what you're doing. In this case, with Rob and Lisa, my podcast was in the top 10%. I stopped doing it. I was very successful with it. I felt great about it. I only know how to do the audio though. I didn't know how to do anything else. And when I wanted to redo the podcast again, I said, you know what? I got to bring someone in who knows what the hell they're doing. So I brought in Rob and Lisa. They know what they're doing. They know how to do. I could never do any of this. I could never figure any of this kind of stuff out. It's not for me. I think some of these guys, like Vinny Vincent in this case, they probably think they know everything. You never know everything. And sometimes making 100% of zero, making 50% of something is better than making 100% of nothing. And I think that's where.
And I'll be honest with you, the problem with Vinny, and Gene said this the best. Gene Simmons said that he is the most destructive individual he's ever met. The problem with Vinny is that he has a problem with a promoter like myself making money off of Vinny Vincent. Now, if I'm the event for Vinny and he makes $50,000, why would he care if I make $25,000? I'm in this business to make money too. But instead, his mindset is, I want 75, not 50. Okay, well, then you do the event and you get all the people and you book the venue and you would blah, blah, blah. But
he wants you to do his fanboy. He wants you to do it for free as fanboy.
Yeah.
And what he wants you to do.
You know what? I'm not that guy.
No, you're not that guy. Is right. It's not your hobby. It's trying to be a career or the entrepreneurial spirit. It's an important thing. But listen, you have this Rockin' Pod thing looks amazing. I can't wait to go.
Yeah. I'm excited to go to that too.
You're gonna love it.
Right? This is all yours, right?
So it's me. It's Chris Stinzak. I'm his helper. It's really his event. It's his baby. And I'll tell you the truth. When he invited me a couple years back to be a part of it at their stages, and I'm glad I got on board because I've been able to watch it grow. And he's now part of the Pantheon community. If you guys know about podcasting, you know all about Pantheon. They're now going to be a sponsor of the event, which helps us get some really nice people. They give good promotions. And Pantheon's huge. They got some of the biggest, podcasts out there.
Right.
So it's, he's branching out and getting bigger. He has a podcast called Decibel Geek, and he's just about to have his 500th podcast, which, as you guys know, that's hard. He's been doing this for over a decade.
Yeah.
So he's been on it for a while on ground level, and it's pretty cool. A lot of fun. You guys will have a good time.
I'm telling you, sign us up for the platinum, whatever the best things are. We want to go to those. So you let us know how much that is. We're in. We're definitely going to be there.
Well, it'll be fun. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
So let's close with this. I want to interview some cool people at Rockin' Pod Max, whatever the heck this thing is called. What is this called, Rob? Say it properly so I don't fuck it up.
Rockin' Pod.
Rockin'
So
Pod. I want to interview some cool people at Rockin' Pod, and I want to do some cool things. And we'll even let Lisa come with us because she's pretty cool too.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, we just need somebody who's young and cool, not like us. And the other thing I say to myself is, what the fuck are some of these guys doing anyway? Like, what on earth is Vinnie Vincent doing all day anyway? I mean, I don't know. I don't know anybody running to find Vinnie Vincent in a restaurant somewhere. I'm sorry. I think guys.
How does he have any money? Let's just get to that.
That's a good question. How does he have? How's Vinnie Vincent have money?
He did one album.
He did 2 albums actually.
Okay.
He wrote a lot of songs for Kiss throughout the years. Like when they took the makeup off and they did like Revenge, he wrote songs on Revenge. I think he wrote Unholy.
Okay.
And he wrote.
How much money is he making from that royalty?
Yeah, it can't be enough to live on.
Well, he's probably not making a ton. But I mean, if you think about it, if you make $100,000 a year off of royalties, and I'm just making this up, I don't know what he makes. That's enough to live on. But for us, we could have a home, we could pay our bills.
Right.
Gene, obviously, $100,000, he's not making it through the week. It's
Exactly.
a different lifestyle and everything. I mean, the guy's worth $300 million.
Different
There's a big
lifestyle,
difference
right?
But I do know that Vin. He does signings. He does events. He did an event for me in 2018 and made $45,000 in 2 days. So I paid him extremely well.
That's where he's making money.
Yeah, he does a couple of those a year and gets some royalty checks. I think he's just content, just being kind of himself, secluded in his home, and he's got some issues. I don't know if he's medicated or if he's got a bipolar or whatever the case may be, but he definitely has some trust and some issues letting people help him.
He might have been fucked in the past too. He might have been fucked in the past too. And a lot of these guys, they get real squirrely with, why does this guy want to work with me? You know what I mean? I'm not defending Vinnie Vincent. I wouldn't know him if he walked across the street right now. I wouldn't know who the fuck this guy was. I mean, I know who he is, but I wouldn't recognize him. You know what I mean? So, but some of these guys, they get squirrely with that kind of stuff, and I think that's a problem. Joe, what are you music wise? Besides, your big thing is the podcasting, and your other big thing is Rockin' Pod, and the other big thing is your is the Kiss Kruise Fest prior to the Kiss Cruise. What other things can we expect from you in the future here as we start wrapping this up?
Started outlining the outlines of a book, and I thought about it. I used to be a little closer to Bob Kulick. I don't know if you know who Bob Kulick is, Bruce Kulick's brother. He's also a producer, and he's played with that.
Right.
Meatloaf. And so I became friendly with Bob, and I developed a concept with him about coming up with a book, his name was Bob. And talking all about him and his story. And then when Bob passed, his brother Bruce asked me to not publish. I have a bunch of emails with different outlines for chapters. And I was going to start putting it out there for people to read because I really love Bob and wanted people to know. And Bruce asked me to kind of keep that to myself. And out of respect for Bruce, Bruce is a fabulous guy. I would never disrespect him or besmirch him. So if he asked me not to, out of courtesy, I absolutely will.
Sure.
So it made me think, so what else have I done? And, between booking East Coast tours and my wife and I meeting all these famous people along the way and all these different events, I started to outline my story. And I realized, some people may not care. There's a ton of stuff that we've done over the years, funny stories, interesting stories. I'm starting to outline a book, and when I get done with Kruise Fest and my life kind of comes back full circle to me, my life again, I'm going to sit down and see where that goes.
Sounds like a Joe D'Angelo titled podcast. A story time with Joe would be perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I thought about doing the whole podcast thing, but to be honest with you, I don't want to start mine from scratch. I would be interested with kind of, for lack of better words, glomming on to one that's existing and just kind of becoming the new or the new co-host or the new partner or new assistant or something like that. That seems to be more, if it happened, that would be the way that it went.
Well, the only thing that you could do to be successful at podcasting, I think, and I'm not Joe Rogan by any stretch of the imagination. I think you just have to do it, and you have to put out content, and you have to just constantly do it. So if you do that, then I think you're good. And even if you're doing it with somebody else and you become the co-host with whomever to do a podcast about music or whatever the case may be, I think that no matter what, you have to work at it. And that's just the way this is all a volume to try to get people to hear what you have to say. So I'm excited. I think Rob already booked Rockin' Pod.
I did it, but I'm gonna have his information. We'll get it all hooked up, but we're going, don't worry.
And all I want is I really, there's some people that I'm really interested in talking with, and some people I'm really interested in networking with, because I think that this is the future of media. It's the present of media, and I think it's also the future of media. And I think that when you have a story to tell, you can't tell it in 7 minutes on a network. You need, like today, an hour and a half to talk about it. Whether we went from the Kiss cruise to Vinnie Vincent to politics to
the Easter Bunny.
To Easter fucking Bunny. We've talked about everything. And you know what? People like to hear this stuff, right? We did a podcast yesterday, me, Lisa, and Rob, and it started off with, the practice one was Mark McGuire smokes weed, and it ended up where we're doing like movie reviews, right? I can't wait to release it. It's fun. You know what I mean? And I think that people hear, Joe, people would want to hear your story, whether it's the crazy shit that you did or fun stuff that you did or whatever the case may be. I highly recommend one of our classmates, because I'm writing a book about my bail bond adventures. And I send all the chapters to Suzanne Zeha. And Sue is a medical book editor and has been kind enough to read some of my stuff and look at it and say, Jesus Christ, this is where you have to put a period and a comma. How do you not know that? But you need somebody like that who is an expert at doing that, who isn't going to change your content so much as they're going to help you make more sense of it. So I know Sue's been doing it for me. As I write, I send it over to her, and I have some insane bail bond stories from back in the day. But it's also a classmate and somebody else you could trust to do it. So Joe, thank you for coming on the show today. We super appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, you're great, and it was. We want to definitely have you back again. And Rob and Lisa, thank you so much for helping to make it happen.